Hello, 7th grade. I'm Mr. Rogers.
And I'm Mrs. Froman.
And you're watching the video notes on section 3-2. This is on probability in genetics. So we've been in class looking at how likely it is to happen that you're going to have alleles for a certain trait, a dominant or recessive allele. And this section talks all about how we get those chances are actually figured out. And so there's going to be a lot of math in this one. But there's the idea of probability. Probability is the likelihood that an event will occur. So it's used to predict the results of a genetic crosses. And we use a Punnett square for that, but just it's how likely something is to happen. And we've got a coin down here, and when you flip a coin, there's two options. It can go heads up or tails up. And those are your two chances, two things that can happen. So we talk about probability with a coin. There's one chance in two of being heads up. We kind of use that idea when we talk about probability and the likelihood that you're going to get certain alleles for a trait. So Mrs. Froman, we use what to do that now?
Then we use that Punnett square,
Okay.
and that's the chart that shows all the probable outcomes of a genetic cross and determines the probability. So we take the alleles that are possible and put them on that box there. So in that case, I think we're back to Mendel's P's with the tall P's with the big T and the short P's with that lowercase t. And we combine those, big T, little t,
Okay.
in the box is kind of like a multiplication table.
Oh, all right. And we have a video attached, so we'll show it at the
Yeah.
end. We'll show you how to use the Punnett square at the end. But this was Mendel's kind of Punnett square. He came up with the idea of how these traits are passed on. And from this box, we get that probability.
Yes, and that'll tell you what will probably happen
Okay.
in that cross.
Right. And so each box is 25% chance
Right,
up to
since
100.
there's four
So
boxes, yep.
and there'll be more.
But it doesn't mean that that's definitely what's going to happen.
Definite. That's the chance.
It's
about
just
the
the
chance.
chances.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so from there, guys, we talk about the idea of a phenotype. And this is more with genetics, whether we're talking about the genes or what you can actually see. So that something's phenotype is its physical appearance. That's the visual traits. We had the example there of a tall pea plant or a short pea plant. In class, we looked at the traits like the widow's peak, your attached or unattached earlobe. Those are phenotypes. We can see those things. They're physical things we can see. And so on the other side of that, in your genes, you have the genotype, so genes, genotype, and that's the genetic makeup or allele combination. So on your genes, or this going back to that pea plant, the possible genotypes could be for the tallness of a pea plant, would be two capital T's, one of each, uppercase, lowercase, or two lowercase t's. That's an allele combination. Remember, there's two alleles for every trait. So tallness is the one trait, or how tall it's going to be, but there's two different alleles for that. And that plant's going to carry two different alleles.
So you could be a tall plant, but not necessarily have both tall
There you
genes.
go. If we look
right?
at-
so your genotype would be different.
That's right. So you could be tall, like here, has a dominant allele. So if you have at least one dominant allele, that's going to express itself. But they could be like a carrier. They could carry that more recessive allele for short pea plants. Yes.
All right, and there's a name for those type of genes.
Okay.
They're homozygous, which means you have two identical alleles for a trait. So if you have two of the dominant traits or two of the recessive traits, you're homozygous.
So it's kind of similar to think about purebred animals a lot of times. Hear that. Okay.
Yep. And then there's heterozygous, which means two different alleles for the trait. And that's going to be that hybrid.
Okay.
One of each allele.
All right. That makes sense. And the other idea is, actually someone brought this up in class the other day, the idea of codominance. And this is when alleles are not dominant or recessive, so neither is masked. And both traits are visible in the offspring. So you're getting two dominant alleles, different dominant alleles from a parent, and you get both those traits come out. So I think here we have a picture of a red flower, dominant. The white flower is also dominant. So when they're crossed, we actually get a chance, anyways, of more of a pink flower,
Pink,
kind
so
of
'cause
combination
red and
of
white
both.
together make pink.
So it's that combination of both there, yeah. And you see this too, I think, in the book. It talked about like roosters. Some roosters are black or white, which are both dominant, and that they cross. Sometimes you get that speckled kind of salt and pepper.
Yeah.
So both dominant alleles do come out. All right, so 7th grade, I think we're going to stop there. And from there, we have a short video we want you to watch and also copy down what we put on the screen about how to actually fill in one of those Punnett squares. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys along the way.
See ya.
Hello, 7th grade, and right now we're trying to use a Punnett square to find the probability that genes are going to be passed on to the next generation. And you can see here we have four boxes. We have we have, let's see, we have one box, there's a second, third, and fourth. So we have our 4 boxes. Each box is relevant or equal to 25% chance. So I think if that number's in that box or whatever's in that box, that's a 25% chance of that allele combination, which would then say what kind of traits that person's going to have, or any living thing, really. So let's start by putting our alleles for each parent on one side. So we're going to use T's. So we'll have, let's start with a capital T here and a capital T here. And up top, the other parent's going to have 2 lowercase t's for this trait. We'll say it's tall. Let's go P plant's tall. And what we're going to do is fill in this box. And the way we do that is, along this side here, left-hand side, this T, this capital T, will come into this box and also into this box. This T down here, we'll put it here and in that box. Put it in both those places. And then, so let's draw those in. So we're going to put a capital T in every box. Now, the next step then is the ones across the top. So let's bring that little t down here and here. Little t comes here and here. So we'll bring those t's down into those boxes. And then from here, we read the Punnett square. We see what it has. So in this first box, right here, we have an uppercase T and a lowercase t. This would tell me that it's a hybrid. It's heterozygous. It has one of each allele. But it does have one tall allele, which means it's going to have the trait for tallness will be expressed. That is what the offspring gets. So each box is a 25% chance. And in this case, there's a 100% chance of a tall pea plant, because every box has at least one, I can draw it there, at least one capital T. There's our 4 T's. So no matter which box you choose, you're going to get a capital T, and this pea plant's going to be tall. Now the other side of that is none of them are going to be purebred, because they all have at least one lowercase t. You can see those right there. And so they have those lowercase t's, which means they'll be carrying the trait for the short pea plant. They won't be short, but they'll be carrying that allele for it. So 7th grade, I hope this helps how to fill in and complete a Punnett square. We thank you guys for watching, and we'll stop here.